This is Rydo, and we're back with another live stream of Shadowverse. So apparently the special event has ended because we have the default load here, which almost certainly means that we're going to end up having to download something, I would think. No, interesting, no download. Well, for the accountability section, I had have to take a day off yesterday, so I accomplished absolutely nothing. Didn't play any pinball, didn't schedule any videos. For some reason, Shadowverse is not wanting to be full screen. There we go. So we can then effectively run into the news today and then just end on Friday. And see, the goal this Friday in particular is to have some games left over for Monday. So we'll have to go through some games in general, but the main focus today is to just do the arena and cover the news. Let's see. We'll open one pack here on the newest expansion. I did get like 4 wins on Wednesday on the arena, so I am in the final B bracket, not the top tier bracket, but actually made it to the final, so that might mean that I'll be awarded with something just for competing. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't actually give me anything unless I actually win 3 victories in the final tier. And I'm assuming it would be something like a title and a small amount of gold. Maybe a card pack. I'm not expecting a lot otherwise. Not shop. I meant to click on cards. Shadowverse's interface still is kind of crazy. It's just a lot going on. A lot of different places you can accidentally click. I did manage, I suppose, for accountability section to get the musician's desk that has a computer keyboard tray, and then above that is room for a piano, electric keyboard, and above that is a shelf for a monitor. And instead of having a piano keyboard, I'm putting my fight stick on it, and so that arrived and I put it together. Probably, at least for the next year or so, the best way to get any kind of finished wood products. And for what I paid for it, which was a pretty good deal for furniture, it came with some wobbly metal legs that at some point I might replace with motorized sit-stand legs, and it came with 3 pre-cut vinyl on the side, vinyl on the top, black pieces of particle board, which is basically what any tabletop is going to be, unless you pay through the nose for solid wood or glass or something like that. I had thought perhaps I would cut into one of them and have the fight stick drop down. The problem with that is you would need the pinball buttons on the side to be right in line with the edges of whatever table you cut, which would effectively mean that it'd be very, very difficult to design something to have a forward piece of wood that's not connected to the back part of a wood that's holding something that sinks down, and it works just as well sitting on top of it. So yeah, suppose if it didn't have the pinball buttons, or if I took off the pinball buttons, which are a possibility, then it wouldn't matter. But that I want the pinball buttons to work, and I want them to be in a good feeling position. Now there is this inherent irony that I still have yet to justify in my own mind, as I'm watching other people build visual pinball, virtual pinball machines with a monitor instead of an actual pinball playfield. I should, just by default, be all about that. I should love that idea completely, because I'm already playing Pinball Arcade. I'm already playing the emulated games on a PC. But for some reason, it just doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel like it's worth the effort, in particular, because it's a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of building of stuff to get you less than halfway to a point where it actually would feel like it's in an actual pinball cabinet. And that is probably a major factor, is that you have that uncanny valley element there. If you build a box that looks like a pinball cabinet, then you put a TV in it and you try to make it feel like a pinball cabinet, it hits that uncanny valley, and it's not that anymore. It doesn't feel like that. So yeah, I would kind of just have to think that I've, at least at the moment, I'm not thinking that that's a good yeah, I just don't think that that's a good path to try to go down, is to build a virtual pinball cabinet. I think staying at having a fight stick and a TV and just admitting to yourself, hey, this is emulation, it's not going to feel 100% like what a real pinball machine would feel like. I think that's the way to go. Plus, even going down that path has been done through a lot of sales, so it was relatively cheap, but it's not completely free. You're not going to have a nice fight stick for less than $100, and you're not going to have a Raspberry Pi for, when all is said and done and set up, for less than $60. So you're approaching that $200 mark where consoles used to cost. Although, in all actuality, nowadays, you're going to be spending $250 for a console, and then at least another $60 for one game, and more likely $180 for at least 3 games in the first initial buy on a new console. So if you were to buy a Switch, you are really somewhere closer to $430. And if you're going to build a PC, certainly you're going to probably spend at least $1,000 on the PC, and then at least, I would say, well, at least $180 on Steam or some other storefront, getting one direction or another as far as whether you want old games or new games. Yeah. Alright, but that's pretty much all the setup I have to talk about. So let's go with the video game news and try and burn through this. I'm still fairly sleepy, you know. Trying to stream at 10 in the morning still puts me in this weird position where I am closer to a nap, a mid-afternoon nap, than I am waking up and getting to an active position. Anyways, Gemetsu has Mon U launching July 15th in Japan. I did briefly imagine what the scenario would be as far as making a warning screen at the beginning of these streams. I don't think we need it, really. Like, my content's not designed to be for kids. It's generally alright, but then we do talk about the adult anime games and the other kinds of adult games that come out, but we don't really show anything, so because of YouTube family friendly guidelines. Okay, well, I suppose we do this.
This is where I truly shine.
And then return there. Gemetsu has an article. Its Take Two has sold 1 million units, which I think that is probably a testament to just the massive drought of new games that this would sell that well so quickly. It does have a lot of platforms it's on, certainly, but it is also a cooperative only game. And arguably, it's being a story around the concept of a divorce, it seems like this is not really the time where you would want to have themes around divorce. But whatever.
Thus the world.
Gonna hit that. I'm gonna hit that.
I will rise.
And then I think I've already done that. I can heal that. And then these other two are just defense restores to the leader. Jackbox is having a party weekend, so a free weekend of Quiplash, which is a free-to-play game anyways, it seems like. I saw this on Slick Deals that you could get Quiplash for free, and I'll just double check and put them in my wishlist, or put it in my library if it's free. Although arguably a lot of these games should just leave my wishlist because these party games are just never going to be played by me. In fact, I have a lot of the old You Don't Know Jack games, and I have not found enough time or a good reason to play them. They potentially could have been a replacement for something like Shadowverse, but that would also be weird. There we go. We've got one victory. I think we want as many victories as possible. Well, the way it's labeled is 100% off, so I'll add it to my account. It was on my wish list. A lot of the You Don't Know Jack games and party games in general are good to have, just in case there ever is a party where you have to break out your PC for group games. Yeah, although arguably that is also something that shouldn't happen and may never happen again, is the mythical house party concept. Arguably, I would say that, like, in the United States in particular, NFL and maybe a little bit of basketball and maybe a little bit of baseball became such an obsessive cult-like following that if you were going to have a house party, it was around a major event like that, or it was around having kids, and then you're having family gatherings for birthdays and barbecues, things like that. But the only people that maintain the idea, hey, let's get together just because we're a group of friends to play some kind of game, would be the Dungeons and Dragons players and Magic and the Gathering type players. And they were really the only people, board game players, that was the only type of people that were getting together to play some kind of weekly, monthly, or even non-regulated game. There was a Reddit video posted where someone had put a whole lot of work setting up a D&D campaign and invited a whole bunch of people and had assumedly a whole bunch of friends that were going to show up, and they all canceled on her, which, yeah, that's just like devastating.
You're in good hands. You're in good hands.
There we go. See, moving on, we have a game on Steam here called Spider Crisis, which is a top-down twin-stick shooter, a tank shooting at spiders. $3.39, English only. Nothing interesting there. Here we have a game called Buildings Have Feelings Too, and the buildings apparently walk, but it's called Strategy Management City Builder. Unfortunately, it's mixed. Because it kind of feels like an interesting idea where the buildings move around and you're trying to pair them up and put them side by side in kind of a puzzle. $15.99 is quite a lot, though. English, full audio, and several other languages. So I'll put this on the follow list and see if maybe it can improve. Apparently it has clunky controls. Alright. Let's play this first. Play this next. And then end the turn. Here we have Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. We've heard this title several times. It is finally out. It looks to be like an RPG, maybe Zelda-like game for $11.99. Alright, well, I guess we put it on the fall list. And if anything, I should be applauded for not having this game already on the fall list. But this may have also been the first time that it actually was listed. I guess arguably there's no reason even to put it on the fall list. It already follows. It's a mostly positive with 30 reviews. So I should just wishlist it. Now there is always that possibility for any game that a year down the line somebody more reviews come out and people will decide they don't like it on average. But that's true for any game on my wish list. So I can't really accommodate for that other than doing a wishlist cleanup and reevaluating the wishlist every now and then. And reevaluating right before I actually buy the game, which I do to some degree. Next we have Craft the Map Crafter, Gather Magical Wards. This feels like an RPG Maker Chinese game if I was to guess. There's a lot going on. English not supported. $8.79. Nope, I was wrong. It was Japanese only. Alright, well, either way. Same kind of issue. Next we have a game on Steam called Mystic Fate, which looks like it is a voxel based game that feels pretty empty as like a dungeon crawler or something. Yeah, I am not impressed with what it's showing me. $5.59 English and Spanish. Next, we have a game on Steam called Boomerang, which looks like it's a player versus player game where you're throwing boomerangs at each other, trying to knock each other off the edges. I don't really like the graphics, and I don't really think there's much of a idea there. I feel like a boomerang in itself is one good weapon in a concept that needs to have several different weapons. It's $4.24, 16 languages allegedly supported. Let's go and play this and this. Next, we have a game on Steam, MotoGP 2021, which, like, as much as I like the graphics here enough to make me want to put this on the fall list, we can see it's already 67% positive with 58 reviews. So I would just be giving it an extra chance to be better, and I just don't think it will get much better. $49.99, bunch of languages. They're calling this the very best of MotoGP, and reviews are not agreeing. Also, more than likely, I would not have a great reason to play a MotoGP game anyways. Here's that game, We Are the Caretakers, where it's the weird looking, like godlike characters with the weird looking animals. But it's just a different visual style with a very bland turn-based combat. It's early access for $15.99 English full audio. I'll give it a chance since it's early access, but I don't know why I should be giving things chances because they're early access, but I will.
Back straight, eyes forward.
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Astro the Beginning, which is a side-scrolling shooter, which I almost assume that there are some bullet hell side-scrolling shooters or shoot 'em ups that I've just not been willing to even consider that are actually pretty good. And this might be a very high chance of being one of those types of games, and yet, since it's just not my style of gameplay, and the idea of having a ridiculous amount of bullets on the screen doesn't interest me, this game doesn't interest me. 9 different languages. It seems like it's anthropomorphic animals, kind of like a Star Fox type idea, but that doesn't really change my opinion one way or the other. Okay. What do we want to do to heal?
Zenith. There, I will
Back
rise.
straight, eyes forward.
Let's see. TechRaptor has details for Magic's next secret layers revealed, including all text lands, which this is another one of those weird art styles that would never actually match in a deck. This is crazy. The idea of an all text card with no art at all for just your basic mountain, island, forest, swamp, and plains. Like that, how could you even... Like, this must be gibberish text or just lore text. Because yeah, it says it's just text describing the card and its future functions in pedantic detail. The card is so absurd that official MTG account had to clarify that they were real cards that would be on sale. Honestly, this just goes to show the ridiculousness of how much they're willing to screw over people. I don't see how you see it any other way, is that they're trying to take advantage of anyone and everyone dumb enough to actually buy those products.
I shall give birth to a new world.
And then they don't have to really do anywhere as much work writing ridiculous text. Like, at least this artwork is some form of art, and these secret layers are effectively getting close to being what NFTs are. If NFTs had existed before the fact, before secret layers started, they would be NFTs.
Follow behind.
But yeah, every time I see a new secret layer, and
Ready to witness my
knowing my own experience with Magic the Gathering and Hasbro, like, I have just less and less desire to ever give them business at all. And I really shouldn't even bother to talk about them, because the connection to video games is small, to say the least. Because sure, you could talk about Magic Arena, but it's
There is
not a big
soul
deal.
without sin.
My blade is your salvation.
Punish the
All of
wicked.
that,
Spare the innocent. Farewell.
and then I suppose we'll heal that. Then I suppose we'll do that. And then we'll end the turn. Techruptor has a review for that game. Buildings Have Feelings Too. Let's see what they gave as a review. 6.5. Buildings Have Feelings Too is a quirky, deceptively challenging management sim about building and buildings. Pros are humorous characters and dialogue, appealing visuals and sound, solid degree of challenge. Cons are slow pacement and movement, tedious progression, and difficulty spikes. Which, arguably, slow pacing and movement, tedious progression, and difficulty spikes could describe a lot of games in general. Alright. Destroy this,
The world cycles on.
and then could do 3 damage to everybody. That won't really accomplish anything. We could heal that way. We could heal that way. I think that probably is the easiest way to heal. Go ahead and put that out too. Techruptor also has a review for Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, which they give a 6.52 also. Interesting how the Steam reviews are different, far off difference in my opinion. Is certainly not bad and has some genuine charm, but the incessant need to add jokes to everything leaves the experience feeling a little taxing. So comedy's a hard thing to get right, certainly, and maybe it didn't work for this reviewer and would work for others. Pros are generally quite charming, some funny jokes that get tiring. Looks and sounds nice. It's a little formulaic. Like their recaps have gotten less useful, I would say too. Let's see. Okay. Hit that.
Smiles are the best medicine.
And hit that. Hit that.
A Faraday keeps the doctor away. A Faraday keeps the doctor away.
I shall give birth to a new world. Behold the fists of immortal supremacy.
This is not the end.
Trying to actually win here, so I'm going a little bit more quiet and actually trying to play, but obviously my tournament deck does have something left to be desired, or just better playing on my part is desirable. Gamma Sutra has an article here. The indie marketplace itch.io has been added to the Epic Games Store. This is a little weird because itch.io really just gives you EXE programs and there's no DLC. So in integrating it to the Epic Games Store, now there's just kind of almost like an API that's accessing a smaller store, which I've almost certainly argued that something like that should exist. It certainly would be nicer if at the very least there was a Steam link to games that you couldn't find on other storefronts, but that would require cooperation. And you have to remember that this is coming from the Epic Games Store, and the only reason that they're doing this is because they want to be able to claim much higher numbers of games being available on their storefront, regardless of whether they're quality or not. Steam has been notoriously guilty of doing the same thing with its open door policy of ridiculous low effort Steam Greenlight type games, or just Steam Direct type games. But almost certainly if Epic became the biggest storefront possible, they would severely de-emphasize or get rid of itch.io to push people to buy bigger, better games. So I don't think it's really much of a power play either, because itch.io games are really just indie games. They are the types of games that I think a lot of the low effort games on Steam should be listed with. So if anything, it would be very nice if Steam came out with its own indie section or small game section and curated things differently, and put all the Steam Direct games hidden behind some checkbox that says don't show me any Steam Direct games, although that really wouldn't work. And then in all fairness, unless you're doing the crazy thing I'm doing, which is looking at every single game that comes out on Steam, you're not going to see the small Steam Direct garbage games anyways. So my issue is an issue of my own making. But yeah, I can't name a single game that's an exclusive on itch.io that really matters. There was that agri.io game that some YouTube streamers were playing. Oh, by the way, I did see a video from YouTube saying basically use the YouTube trending pages to find whatever video game everybody's covering and cover it. But then they immediately talk about competition too. So they said, yeah, every video game streamer should be playing Fortnite. And I'm like, well, A, I don't want to play Fortnite, and B, if I was playing Fortnite, I can tell you from my experience that my videos would be in such high competition against everyone else's videos that they wouldn't get any more views. They'd almost certainly get less views. And I have no desire to turn a YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, into a job where I'm chasing trends and just trying to get views from people that A, don't really care about my content and don't really care about me as a creator, and will leave me as soon as I miss a trend, or as soon as a new trend happens and somebody else's is more interesting to watch.
Punish the wicked. Let judgment fall. Finish the job.
And the video also talked about the idea of evolving your content, and yeah, that's not really how YouTube is designed. Like, if you're evolving your content on YouTube extremely, you have to basically change your name and start all over again. Because the second you make any changes, and I've heard this from so many different YouTubers, is the second they want to do something else and they try to even slowly boil the frog and evolve their content, they get ridiculous amounts of pushback and they lose views like crazy. And honestly, that's just another example of how YouTube does not really know how its own algorithm works.
You're in good hands.
Of course, YouTube bitterness is also standard fare and perhaps getting cliche. But yeah, that definitely is part of the reason why I stopped watching a lot of the YouTube suggested videos for creators. Today supposedly is International Creator Day, which, whatever that means. Okay, can we do 4 damage? Or Bane.
There is not a soul
That
without
one.
sin.
Suppose do that one.
Faster, holier.
Do that
A
one.
prayer a day keeps the doctor away. Back straight,
Attack there.
forward.
Gamma Citra has an article here. The departing GameStop CEO is going to land 179 million exit on thanks to the recent stock saga. Which, yeah, that totally makes sense. Almost certainly that to be a CEO of a business, you have to hold a certain amount of stock and you're not allowed to sell it. You probably have to get board approval or shareholder approval to give away or sell stock. A lot of these CEOs and people in charge usually, or the board in general, usually have to hold close to a majority share of stock, I would guess. And I would not be surprised one bit if the CEO deciding to quit had 100% to do with the price tag being high and this being the right time for them to get out. Plus, he has the beautiful scenario of being able to say he, in part, helped the shares of GameStop go extremely high, and he can take credit for a bunch of Wall Street bettors on Reddit. Gamma Sutra CD Projekt has over 303 million in profit and 137 million as Cyberpunk 2077 sold in 2022. I mean 2020. I'm jumping a few years ahead. Well, this will be our last chance to get 2 victories. Since we're in the Grand Prix, I suppose we're already in the Grand Prix. You don't have to really qualify for any final round. You're just trying to get the highest ranking. I also wouldn't be surprised, though, that to win in these rankings, it's not just like winning 5 games for that 1 free game per day. I wouldn't be surprised if you have to win 5 games and then buy another entry and win 5 more games and buy another entry. And it's just a maximum number of overall wins you get to move up the rank. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has Firewalk Studios signs a publishing deal with PlayStation for its debut title, which is a new original multiplayer IP. Of course, Firewalk Studios is not really a company I recognize, so since it's a new company, nor do I recall any stories of anybody big starting Firewalk Studios. See, Gamma Sutra's promoting GDC, Explore the World of Black Games. University of Miami Night Chair Lindsay Grace has a talk you shouldn't miss. Alright, yeah. I really have to question, though, college professors in general talking about video games with any credibility. Like, I imagine there's less than 3 people who actively worked more than 3 years in the video game industry that now also have college professor jobs, or now just have college professor jobs. And while I would enjoy, if I was a game developer, like listening to Shigeru Miyamoto, creator of Mario, talk about video game development, if somebody from Atari who programmed E.T. was talking about video game development, there's limited value in that information. It might be useful just generically as historical information, but I couldn't really heed those words as coming from someone who really knows how the industry works. There definitely are some people that probably would be well to be sent off to pasture, as it were, and be college professors, and they could teach some basics. Like the guy in charge of Double Fine, I think is someone who would be good to be a college professor and teach about how Double Fine is run or was run. The creators of Myst probably should be put off to pasture. The creator of the God games and the Fable games, he would be best sent off to pasture to be a university professor. I could think that there's probably a decent number of Japanese employees that are very old. They could be sent to like University of Tokyo, University of Kyoto, and teach about video game design. Let's see, Gabe Newell, great example. Make him a university professor. That'd be a less demanding job. Well, arguably maybe not less demanding compared to his current job. Cliffy B, I think, another great example of somebody like that are fairly old. I'd say the developer of BioShock is getting close to that age too. And I suppose it is just ageism at a certain place, at a certain point, to say all old game developers should be sent off the pasture and become university professors, but it actually is a decent system, and at least those people would be able to speak from experience compared to what I imagine a lot of video game colleges are full of people who've never even worked in the computer science field, let alone the video game industry. I definitely had a computer science teacher that kind of barely worked with computers, and he was alright, but he wasn't like the best ever. And then, in all fairness, I also had computer science teachers that one was literally just the wife of the professor in the college that taught the 4th year classes. So they just let the wife, who knew nothing about programming, teach the 1st year classes, which is a great way to irritate and wash out any young, ambitious, energetic people when you have nepotism, getting someone a role and having an incompetent person teaching. I also had a teacher in one classroom who literally knew nothing about computers and literally just made us go through a online study guide book, and proudly boasted that of the 30 students, 28 of them were pretty much going to fail, and he was just going to give them passing grades regardless. But there was a certification test at the end, and 28 out of 30 of the students on average were going to fail that certification test, which is also it was a Cisco networking CCNA test, and so that is also a testament to the problem with Cisco's own educational program, because it was Cisco's online learning program, and they were, if you can go through that and still fail their own test, then you know that there's big problems. Yeah. Need to be able to do that. If I do that, that's nothing. If I do that, that's something, I suppose. And then don't want to evolve anymore. Try and attack.
You will got a death wish. Step up. You've got a death wish.
Yeah, education as far as video game programming and programming in general needs to be majorly improved. It's pretty bad. It was in my day. I think it's still pretty bad these days. And it really is just gonna probably take a generation or two of people learning it enough themselves to teach it to other people. And I imagine education in general is pretty bad. And then you get into this kind of catch-22 where the businesses then have to end up educating their new hires so that they actually can do the jobs, which then they're not happy about that. I think I'm doomed regardless.
If you've got a death wish, step up.
Moving on, let's see, Kama Sutra. Sorry, I'm still trying to win and I'm gonna lose. There we go. Well, so much for that arena run. Supergiant Hades has been named Game of the Year at the 24th DICE Awards. I guess this is for 2020. Let's see. Outstanding Achievement in Animation, Last of Us Part 2. Ghost of Tsushima for Outstanding Achievement in Art Direction. Outstanding Achievement in Original Music Composition, Ghost of Tsushima. Outstanding Technical Achievement, Dreams from Media Molecule. I've totally forgotten that game even existed. Outstanding Achievement for Independent Games is Hades. Immersive Reality Technical Achievement is Half-Life Alyx for Valve. Wow, that came out in 2020? It's been a year or two. Mobile Game of the Year is Legends of Runeterra. Never heard of it. Online game Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout. Pretty much forgotten about that. And Immersive Reality Game of the Year is Half-Life Alyx. So I don't know how that specifically makes it Game of the Year. I guess maybe the overall Game of the Year. Now, does DICE have any credibility? I don't know. A lot of these Game Award shows don't seem to really matter. Alright, well, I got one reward, so let's see what that reward is going to be. It's probably not much. Card pack's actually pretty good. The remaining rounds 2. So let me see here. If I was to hit enter, I'd have to use a ticket. And is it worth it to use a ticket now and be in the grand finale, or sit on these tickets and wait for them later, considering how these arena tickets really don't do anything else? Remaining rounds 2. Okay. Do I want to do that? Or do I not want to do that? Because, like, pretty much when this ends in 3 hours and it ends today. Rotation B01. So, like, tomorrow and over the weekend would be the rotation. Let's throw caution to the wind and do it. Did we change anything? Nope. Let's just bang our head against the thing that won. Let's see. Game & Switcher has an article here. EA is bringing Battlefield franchise to mobile platforms for the first time. A mobile version of the shooter is being developed by Industrial Toys, who's working closely with the DICE team. I can't imagine any first-person shooter that was like a AAA first-person shooter game would actually be interesting to play on a cell phone. See, Gematsu has 505 Games. It's going to publish a game called Rogue Spirit. We may have already talked about this. Yeah, this is the one where you take possession of people and run around in a roguelike type game in Japanese villages fighting each other. So it's kind of like a dungeon, but it's more open air village instead of your traditional dungeon appearance. Let's see. Gematsu has a new Battlefield coming to consoles and PC this holiday, and Battlefield Mobile for 2022. Yeah, and we shall have to wait to figure out any more details as far as that Battlefield.
What is not there?
We're gonna have to burn down some of these games again. Here we have a game on Steam called Lacunia, Lacuna Prologue, which obviously is a demo. Looks like it's a pixel graphics point and click adventure game, if I was to guess. It's free
Will save you all.
and several languages. Let's just go to the main game though. Let's see, this is May 20th. So I might as well just, if I'm going to put anything on the fall list, I'll just put that on the fall list. Although arguably, it may not be worth it to even do that. I may eventually get to the point where I start looking at the fall list and seeing that there is a considerably large number of games that have been followed that are just not coming out or didn't come out when they were supposed to come out.
Through darkness in all its forms.
Here we have a game on Steam called DW, which looks like just kind of an ugly MS Paint graphics RPG Maker game for $7.99. English only. Alright. So do 3 damage to everything except for the things that would need to be destroyed.
Serves me right.
Well, I just lost. I'm gonna quickly regret spinning that ticket.
This is not the end.
Here we have a game on Steam called Hop Legs, which is a box with 4 buttons to push out legs to get it from one position to the other. So it's a slight variant on the idea of doing something like getting over it with Benet Foddy. Still, I feel like this is pretty much just a frustration game. Seems like it has some anti-gravity physics also. I couldn't imagine really wanting to play this. $16.19, which is a ridiculously high cost. Third-party EULA, English, allegedly full audio with several other languages. And apparently it has an editor too, which also I'm not going to be interested in. And then here we have a game on Steam called Golden Force, which looks like it's a 2D platforming game that feels a little bit like a Shantae game. Doesn't look terrible. $11.99, English only. It looks visually polished enough to deserve a follow, so I'll put it on the follow list. Could really be nothing. Could play terribly. Could control terribly. Those are all possibilities. I think my phone just sitting on the same screen. Yep, battery's about to die. There we go. Whatever. Just turn off the screen and hope it can stay at 5% for an hour or two, which it almost certainly can't. Gametsu has an article here. Tales of Arise adds a PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series version and launches September 10th. And instead of looking at the advertisement and the limited edition version of this on Gametsu, looking at the trailers, we can actually do slightly one better by going to Tales of Arise on Steam, which came out September 9th, 2021, and yet has no reviews. This looks far too visually polished to have no reviews. Oh, September 9th. I misread that. So it's not out yet. 4 months from now. I thought it said April 9th. Okay, well that explains why it has no reviews. We can put that on the fall list. Once again. Very much early, but whatever. I guess it might have been wiser to actually watch the trailer then. But there's so many trailers. Let's see if we can. There you go. We'll look at this gameplay showcase trailer of Tales of Arise and see what it is. It could be kind of Breath of the Wildish, but honestly, Monster Hunter also would apply. Like any action RPG game in a somewhat open world kind of applies. Yeah. There might very well be an argument that playing Tales of Arise, it doesn't make as much sense as playing some of the other games that have existed. Like the Atli or Ryza series might be better than playing Tales of Arise. Also, the Tales of series, I think, actually is a series, so I wouldn't be surprised if Tales of Arise actually is part of the Tales series, and thus it actually is the like 5th or 6th game in a series, and then that becomes a big consideration as to whether now is time to play it or not. That has come to my attention that Nier Replicant is actually a remake of Nier, the first Nier game, which was then only slightly modified for the Western version called Nier Gestalt. The big modification being that you played as a father character instead of a brother character to save this girl who has the sickness in the first game in Nier Gestalt. And so Replicant is just kind of remaking the events of the first story with, or remastering probably more than the actual even remaking it. So there is some room, I suppose, for playing that game first and then going back and playing Nier Automata, which I guess that would work out very nicely for me as someone who hasn't played Nier Automata and wanted to.
I will rise.
Let's see. Next, we have a Kimetsu article. Kohime Inbu Ryo Ra Ra DLC version 3 is now available for PC. It adds a new playable character named Joko Komoi and a new strategist named Kakuka Hoko, which this is the strategist. This is Joko Kami, Bikini Lady Ninja Girl. And so you would think that this was some kind of visual novel or something, but by the looks of it, it is actually a fighting game. That doesn't inherently mean that it isn't full of anime girls and cleavage and stuff. But I would say all these outfits of these other characters seem to be a little bit more high fashion and covering things than the Bikini DLC character. But you can see they are doing the standard lewd anime fashion style in which the clothes are effectively glued to the skin of the people and show every curve that and every angle you possibly could show. There is, I suppose, a question there as far as whether that would be YouTube family friendly or not. And so you'd have to be careful if I was going to cover this game, and it might make a good argument against playing the previous girl-focused fighting game that came out. Although that previous game was better known.
Awaken, for the end is near. This is not the end.
See, now I'm looking at it on Steam. There definitely is a difference between what a trailer shows and what the screenshots show. I'd say any stationary image is going to probably not be as bad as moving images, although there is a lot of underboob here. This image also highlights the number of characters and fighters, so there's actually some value there. This is rated very positively, so I guess I have to put it on the follow list. See, if I'm trying to think of the other game. Not Skullgirls. Skullgirls is downright tame in comparison. The one that had Million Arthur in it. I don't think that game actually came out on Steam, come to think of it. So, I think that probably would solve that problem in the first place. Let's see, the developer there is not a company I recognize, and the publisher of the game publishes a wide variety of anime games, and not all of them look particularly great. There is a decent collection on the wish list that arguably should be rounded down even more. They published the Umahari Kawase series, which is probably the most notable games to mention as far as the publisher. They published the RPG Maker game Skyborn that was pretty well reviewed, but I couldn't get into it. But let's see, the fighting game Koihime Inbu apparently has had
A dazzling victory awaits.
a few instances. There's a version 1, and then there's a version 3. I'm not seeing anything between that. And no, there's a Koihime, gotta read it right. It's Koihime Inbu Ryo Ra Ra, came out in 2018, and that's on my follow list. But then it jumps from Ryo Ra Ra to Ryo Ra Ra version 3 as DLC. But seemingly there is no version 2 DLC. Yeah, so they either removed version 2 or they skipped directly to version 3. But every version they have to show off is rated very positively. Not a lot of reviews though. And that would be part of the problem here, is that you've got a fighting game that has 79 very positive reviews, 89% positive. 79 reviews, 89% of which are positive. And that's just not enough reviews. It's enough reviews potentially for me if I was just going to go through fighting games and show off some weirder fighting games for my own entertainment purposes. But it's not really enough to be informative. I can't really tell people go out and play this game because this game is not obviously well received enough. It might fight particularly well, it might fight particularly badly, but for my own channel to dip my toe into fighting games, it makes way more sense to play Street Fighter 5 or whatever the newest Street Fighter is, or whatever the newest well, Street Fighter would be one of them, and I know there's a couple others, but I can't even think of their names off the top of my head. There still is a major confusion. Whatever the Evo lineup is, really. Like, whatever is being played at Evo, whatever of those games that can be purchased on Steam, those more than likely are the games I should be covering. And if a new game came to Evo, that would be a good mile marker to cover that new game. Or if I just found that I really liked fighting games, then I might get some more. But it's kind of hard to even define what liking a fighting game is, particularly if you're only going to play the single player experience, which is mostly all I would be willing to do. Like, if there's a story mode and you can actually get to the ending on the story mode, whether on medium or easy, in my case, that might be alright. I might try to get to the ending for each character if there's different story modes for each character, or story reveals. That's what Mortal Kombat had, but also Mortal Kombat has added so many characters that that's kind of ridiculous to try and pull off now. Anyways, moving on, the Rift Breaker launches this fall for the PS5, Xbox Series PC, and later for the PS4 and Xbox One. Let's see, it seems like it's tagged as an RPG game. So you seemed like there was a bikini girl controlling the mech, but the actuality you're going to be just playing in the mech. This might not be too far away from some of those solo missions in StarCraft, because they were going to make this whole StarCraft Ghost game, and you were going to control one sniper, one elite assassin sniper character. It's kind of like a walking tower defense game, but I wouldn't brand it that way, certainly. There might be something to this. It might put in a lot more action than you normally expect from a real-time strategy looking game. But it also might get crazy with just a lot of grinding, or a lot of shooting, a lot of enemies. See, a game called Just Die Already launches May 20th for the PC, PS4, Switch, and Xbox One. It's an old people mayhem sandbox simulator, which I think we may have already seen something like this. No. Yeah, this seems to be a little too trolly and a little too ridiculous. And frankly, a little too just kind of hate-filled. But also, more than that, it really just doesn't seem like there's a clear gameplay mechanic here. So they seem to be just trying to sell on controversy and nothing else. Okay. Go ahead and put that on the field. And then play that, I guess. Let's see. Here we have a game on Steam called One Hop, which just looks like a low polygon asset flip game where you play as a bunny for $1.99. Next, we have a game on Steam called Dread Hunger, which looks like it might be people stuck in the ice, killing each other, trying to save. It's one of those werewolf type games. $24.99. It's Third-party ULAB, online PvP. Graphics look fine, but I think your mileage is going to vary drastically depending on who you're playing with, and whether or not you can actually get an interesting second game out of something like that is questionable. Here we have a game on Steam called Dungeon Gravestone, which looks like it's just a pixely dungeon crawler for $19.99, English, Polish, and Japanese. That's too expensive. Well, see, Gematsu has Fantasy Tavern Sextet Volume 3 Post-Lude Days coming to PC on May 13th, the final entry in the trilogy. This is obviously big busted anime girls in a visual novel, but undeniably seems to have some level of following. Okay. What do we want to do? I suppose we want to do this. And then, can we restore anything to anybody besides the leader? No. See, Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin has a digital event set for April 27th. Which it's now available for Switch and due out for PC in early 2002.
So long as there is light.
See, Gematsu also has the Tales of Arise 60-second Japanese TV commercial, which they seem like they are going to promote Tales of Arise quite a bit. Well, one victory is nice. See, Gematsu has Crayon Shinchan Ora to Hakase no Natsuyasumi Owara Nai Nano Katakan no Taibai, launching July 15th in Japan. That's a mouthful. Yeah, it's kind of a shame that the Shinchan series hasn't really made it to the West, but it's also probably not a huge loss either. Shinchan, whether it's appreciated by parents or not, is totally supposed to be for very little kids. And in this one, it seems like it's kind of a Stardew Valley style game where you are wandering around and doing small events. I would gladly trade any Crayon Shinchan game that might come to the West for a Detective Conan game instead. Those, I think, are better quality, and both of those shows are fairly targeted to young kids. Or just have more Ghibli-esque games, which they certainly could try more of that. Here we have Monster Hunter Stories 2 Rings of Ruin, which just definitely feels more like a Breath of the Wild art style, and very much more colorful than the monsters we've seen in the previous Monster Hunter games for the last couple years. So if this is like a single player JRPG story, there might be something to that. $59.99. It does have online player versus player. It has de novo. And third party EULA. There's a weird thing here. Well, I put this on the follow list. Though, as far as this is like Capcom. So is there Monster Hunter Stories 1 on Steam that would make sense? Feel like I would have seen a Monster Hunter Stories game. Here's Monster Hunter World from 2018. No. So Monster Hunter Stories 1 must have been some kind of Vita game or something. Would be my guess. This is interesting. Once again, we have a video here that's was YouTubed and now it's been age restricted. We're seeing that happen more and more with YouTube. It's weird that on Steam though that they're listing YouTube videos anyways. But yeah, YouTube is really wrecking anything that's not made for kids. As far as whether you can watch it embedded or not, and they're just kind of wrecking embedded videos in general. Inevitably, that's because they're trying to track people more. Moving on, Gametsu, the laid-back camp, Have a Nice Day, launches September 30th in Japan. This is the more kind of visual novel game compared to the VR ones we'd seen before. That also probably were visual novel games, but more VR too. Here we have a game on Steam, Super Cannon, which looks like nothing for $5.09. Yeah, and I'm in a weird position today where I think it's kind of pointless for me to even come at a pretense that I'll try and play some pinball after the stream today. Like, I might, certainly, but there is also a decent chance I'll just take a nap and then maybe late into the evening, early into the morning of Saturday, I'll get back to playing pinball. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Cognition Method Initiation, which looks like some pretty visuals as far as locations, but I'm not sure there's a real game here or if this is just a walking simulator. Well, it's free to play. It doesn't require VR. It's English full audio. That's a decent offering, so I think it deserves a follow. Like, this may not really be anything. They're calling it a first-person puzzle game combining gameplay mechanics of altering gravity in a surreal, otherworldly setting. So yeah, that might be something. Next we have Helicopter Simulator 2020, which doesn't look like something. $5.99, English full audio, and several other languages. Not anything of interest. The helicopters seem to go up and down very vertically, where they would have to be tilting forward or backward, or they'd have to also be potentially moving in a way that they couldn't be moving. Next we have what looks like a Chinese horror game or Japanese horror game. Seems to be all text. It's nicely visually polished. Seems to be focused around going through a cell phone. It's $8.99, Chinese, full audio only, unfortunately. There's a decent enough polish here where Maybe if this was localized properly, it'd be something. It claims to be, it's tagged as VR, but it's not virtual reality, so that's another issue. Okay. Is there anything we can do to save the day? You hit this.
My blade is your salvation.
Punish the wicked. Spare the innocent. Let
You hit
judgment
that.
fall.
See you around, Slick.
You play that. See, next we have a game on Steam called Streamer Dance Floor, which seems to be an asset flip. Just, I guess, simulation of streamers on a dance floor dancing, or fans or viewers on a dance floor dancing. Which I could see that idea if you wanted to be a DJ and you wanted to Twitch stream. And see, this guy, obviously he's got his own Twitch streaming link here. That kind of almost makes sense, but it doesn't really make sense. Because streaming on Twitch may let you rip off and violate copyright a little bit, but not enough that you could actually have like a dance floor going on. And if the viewers aren't actually dancing and they're just watching their avatars dance out of sync with the music and not in any regular pattern, it seems kind of pointless in general. Dancing in general doesn't make a lot of sense unless you are actually trying to meet up and bump and grind with actual other humans. Sure, I imagine there is a small percentage of people that just want to dance for their own enjoyment and their own exercise, but yeah, it doesn't make sense in any world. I would also heavily suspect that many DJs out there have just a collection of stolen FLAC files or MP3s and don't really even have the proper licenses to broadcast music, but nobody's going to catch them, nobody's going to call them on it. Particularly if you're a DJ that's just doing an event like a wedding or something. Like, nobody's going to call them on it, and nobody's going to investigate it. Which I'm perfectly fine with, because last thing I care to see happen is more money go into the greedy hands of music production companies. But yeah, when you take that to Twitch as an idea, it falls apart. And it just feels like another dumb direction in which Twitch can go. And Twitch in general feels like it's got too many dumb directions it can go. Anyways.
Go ahead and play for now. Hey, let's play.
I guess go ahead and hit that. Let's see, next we have a game on Steam called the Corpsmen, more Corpsmen. I think that's Corpsmen, is how you pronounce that. Seems like it's a card-based RPG where you create chimera type characters and merge parts onto the characters. But if you're merging parts onto the characters, I don't know how you're actually creating a card that works with that. Maybe you don't. Maybe this part really doesn't have much to do with this part. It might have an idea. $17.99 single player. We'll put it on the follow list. There's a small chance somebody finds that interesting. See, next we have a game on Steam called Chicken Man, which it seems like it's just a visual mess in every single screenshot. It's just blurred all over the place in every single screenshot. And otherwise, looking at the outlines of images, nothing looks particularly interesting. It's free and English full audio, so whatever. Let's see. Go ahead and kill that. See, next we have a game on Steam. Oh, have I not been doing any of the screenshots? Ooh. Nope, I never took it out of solo mode from a couple days ago, so I haven't been doing any of the web peaks today. You've just been watching me play. Alright, well, I guess we'll continue down that path, and now I'll know that when I'm pointing the mouse, you won't see that, because I don't believe there's any way for me to switch the scene collection over. And so, yeah. It kind of sucks, but it's kind of not a big deal either. Let's go ahead and kill this. And then kill this. Alright, well, next we have a game on Steam called Fate of Dynasty, which looks like it is a voxel-y game, but it's not showing any characters and it's not showing any gameplay. They're calling it a short lore exploration puzzle game. It's free, English only. I don't think there's enough there to impress me enough to put it on the fall list though. Let's see, next we have a game on this Steam called Winter Wastelands, which looks like it's an MS Paint drawn game. It feels like it's a Zelda-esque type of adventure drawn with MS Paint graphics. It's discounted to $3.99 English only. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Astral Cube, which looks like nothing. It's just like a rocket ship and a cube merged together, flying around other generic 3D objects. It's $1.99 in English, allegedly full audio.
Like a fallen leaf.
Okay. Okay. Hit that.
You're in good hands.
And hit that.
You're in good hands.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Photographer, which is some pre-bought 3D anime girls in a photography studio in different outfits. Like one looks like they're dressed as Bowsette, one looks like they're dressed as a French maid, one's in a bikini, one's in lingerie. There seems to be an editor where you can change the hat and poses and things like that for these photos. Honestly, it's kind of just straight towards the point here, and it kind of makes a lot of sense. If you just wanted to be able to pose these asset flip 3D characters. It looks like there really is only 4 of them. It's early access for no reason, and it's $3.99. I seriously doubt that there's any actual mature content in it, or any nudity in it. So you're really just gonna be limited to the thing that it is, which isn't actually that much of anything.
Birth to a new world.
I don't know what keeps damaging me by one. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Dark Minute, which is a dark looking kind of pixel graphics platforming game. It seems like it kind of feels like a frustration platforming game. I'm not really seeing any enemies. I'm seeing a lot of places where you would jump and some places where you'd swim. And that's about it.
Hear the roar of my nine flames.
Yeah, it's early access for $8.99. English, Polish, French, Portuguese, and Italian.
Here goes.
And Japanese, Korean, and Russian, and Chinese.
Flames of the nine tails.
Cycles on.
Trying very hard to win here. Can I do something to win? I mean, if I get 6 damage, I don't think so.
I'm gonna rest for a bit.
I think I needed that to win, potentially. Yeah, watching the video of Dark Minute Kira's adventure pretty much guarantees that there's nothing there to play. Next, we have a game called Dark Frame,
I am
which
the
is kind of the exact same game with just slightly worse graphics. Dark in a lot of places, platforming, no enemies. It's 59 cents, English and Russian, full audio, with several other languages.
like a fallen leaf.
Also supported allegedly.
This is not the end.
See, next we have a game on Steam called Ghost or Trick, which looks like it's a visual novel game around maybe a horror murder mystery. The characters are drawn a little older, so it's not going for that moe art style. It's not showing a lot. It might have branching paths as far as the stories go. It's English and Japanese. Yeah, it does seem to branch out. And arguably, that is the type of visual novel that might have been better received than 999 or Virtue's Last Reward, in that they also had branching paths, but they had a ridiculously large amount of dialogue, which became issues. See, next game, I'll put that one on. Ghost or Trick, I'll put on the wish list. So was it worth it to use a ticket? Maybe. I mean, packs are worth 100 gold. Are tickets really worth 100 gold? Or are they worth 150 gold? I think they're kind of worth 150 gold. So, what are we still trying to get here? Is ranked matches. One with Swordcraft. Let's do some math here. Not gonna play for a third time, but yeah, it would be 150. So each ticket was worth 150 gold. So I lost 50 gold by giving it a second chance, which is not terrible. Not really. And then we're looking for a Swordcraft rank victory. Let's see. Kimetsu has an article here. A side-scrolling platformer WICE, W-I-C-C-E, is coming to Switch this May. It looks like a dark-looking game. I'm not sure exactly what kind of game it is.
Enhance. Fire.
Oh, it's a platformer hack and slash game with a purple-haired wizard. It might not be pronounced Weesey. It might be pronounced Weiss, as in Vice, with a W. That would make a little bit more sense. But then the pixel version of the purple-haired witch character is different than the zoomed out thing. I actually do have Weiss, or WICCE, on my wish list. It came out in 2016 on Steam. Yeah. It looks like it's probably a short, simplistic hack and slash platformer game with more of a Halloween horror type feel to it. It's $4.99 English full audio, third party EULA, which seems ridiculous, but whatever.
This town eats good folk for breakfast.
It's from a developer called Alpha Rats with a Z, which
I'll get production up and running.
has like one other game called Nevaeh, Nevaeh, and Documentary as a different game. Let's see what Nevaeh is. It's on the fall list, and it came out on September 17th of 2020, and it has 12 mostly positive reviews. So I have seen it before. It's just waiting in that hold position.
Those centuries pass. I remember all.
Let's see. A game called Judgment, we've heard about that, has a countdown website teasing a May 7th announcement, which I guess means maybe they're getting closer to releasing that. Let's see, do we want to play this, or do we want to end up doing nothing? Let's just go ahead and play this.
Is to come back alive. Allow yourself to
Hit
forget.
that,
Hands up!
then hit that.
I'm so useless.
Let's see. A French retailer called Cultura, C-U-L-T-U-R-A, has listed Arcana Heart 3 Love Max 6 stars for the PS4 and Switch, which that's a new one for me as far as a French retailer potentially leaking a release announcement. Do we want to wait?
Allow yourself to forget.
Let's see. Gamatsu has Battle Spirits Connected Battlers has been announced for the PS4 and Switch due out this winter in Japan. We watched the trailer here. Okay. I'm seeing a white-haired guy and a white-haired girl, and they're playing a collectible card game. Was not expecting that. Not a lot there. It's kind of, actually it's a brown-haired guy, not a white-haired guy.
Strength and beauty together. So that's how you use it. So that's how you use
And
it.
then that.
Let's speed things up.
Allow yourself to
Too
forget.
slow.
Let's see, according to Gamatsu, a Earthbound-inspired RPG called Odd Venture is coming to Switch and PC in Q3 of 2022. Kickstarter campaign to launch on May 6th. Okay. Although, honestly, I don't know if anybody's going to really be satisfied playing a Earthbound-inspired game. That just doesn't strike me as something that would be a happy experience. It would just be people being upset that they couldn't actually play a new Earthbound game in the series.
Count your tanukis just yet.
TechRaptor has an article. Nintendo has launched a new interactive Pokemon Snap preview site, which I think is mostly just a website showing you a few pictures and a few areas. I don't think it's really going to let you have much of an experience close to what the new Pokemon Snap would be. If it is, if the preview site is anything close to what the actual video game is, then the actual video game is going to be particularly boring and irritating. There probably is an argument that the scripted nature the scripted nature of should have just evolved that. What I mean to say is the scripted nature of Pokemon Snap, in which Pokemon were doing things and interacting. It feels like you could script those sections and put them in a new Pokemon game also, and then have the Pokemon feel more connected to the world they are, instead of being just AIs that wander up and down, left and right in grassy areas, or stand next to a Pokemon trainer and do nothing, waiting for commands. OpenCritic has an article here. A new Nintendo Switch and a Fujifilm printing app are going to launch next week. The new Switch I imagine this might be misphrased. This might mean it is a Nintendo Switch / Fujifilm printing app, and there isn't actually a new hardware Switch device coming out. Yeah. I guess the idea is that this is in line with the Pokemon Snap game, so that you could print out photos of your Pokemon, which I imagine a lot of kids will want to do something like that and be fairly annoying to their parents, wasting ink. Most people don't even need a printer these days, let alone a film photo printer. So the Fujifilm Instax Link printer is the hardware device, and then the app is coming out to let you print from the Switch directly. Inherently, also, if you were gonna just make a new console and you're gonna base it, you probably should base it on something like Linux and just have the printing capability built in at a very low level, whether or not it ever actually gets used by game developers. TechRaptor has an article. Evercade has announced the Evercade Versus, which is a cartridge-based console, which I imagine nobody in their right mind is actually interested in. We've just seen a lot of this kind of ridiculousness happen. Oddly, it seems like the device itself has slots for 2 cartridges. Yeah, if anything, what it really feels like is that a lot of the NES clone companies are now trying to make some kind of gaming device that they could possibly sell outside of China, and they are never really going to be able to succeed there because they were making NES clones, because foreign consoles were illegal for so long, and China was intentionally just building up its own internal industry and being protectionist as far as competition goes. So yeah, there's been, at least in front of my eyes, a growing number of consoles ever since like the NES Mini that have come out, and people try to sell them, and they're all pretty much garbage. You're still way better using a Raspberry Pi and RetroPie, or just using a PC and using RetroArch to emulate directly on your PC. If you don't want a separate device or don't need a separate device, you're better off using a PC. OpenCritic has an article. Xbox has added a frames per second boost to 13 more backward compatible games. This includes Battlefield 1, 4, and 5, Mirror's Edge, Catalyst, Plants vs. Zombies, Gardenville, Battle for Neighborville, and Garden Warfare 2. Yeah. That first one I said there should have been...
Thus, the world ends.
I'm gonna lose if I do this.
Cycles on.
But I don't know what else to do. So Garden Warfare 2, Sea of Solitude, Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2, Titanfall 1 and 2, and Unravel 2. Oddly, not Unravel 1. So maybe that already had a frames per second boost. Maybe it didn't. TechRaptor has an article. The next Valheim update will have updated trolls, new items, and more. Which I haven't heard anybody say anything about Valheim in a while, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's losing interest. Let's see. Gamatsu has the Resident Evil Village Castle demo trailer and details. Let's see if we can skip through this and see if there's anything of interest for me to mention.
You must die.
Target sighted.
There is an argument being made. The vampire lady does shoot out big claws out of her hands. That's new. There is an argument being made that they named it Resident Evil Village for that name recognition and the pun, and then so far a lot of the trailers have not really been taking place in a village. It's either been in a single house or in a castle. But I also wouldn't be surprised if what's being shown to us is the first couple of hours, and then we kind of get out of that area and into another area like all other Resident Evil games. Or at least hopefully that's the case, because otherwise it's going to be like the Resident Evil 3 remake, where you're kind of just running around the same city the whole time. Let's see, Gamatsu has Ys 9 Monstrum Nox for Switch and PC, launching July 6th in North America and July 9th in Europe. So the next Ys game is coming out eventually.
This is our way out.
This,
No one gets past me.
That.
Too slow.
and that. TechRaptor has an article. The Olympics sponsor virtual sports with the Olympic Virtual Series.
So this
Let's see if they have a list of games that they're gonna play. World Baseball Softball Conference from Konami. Union Cyclist International from Zwift. ZWIFT, never heard of it. Federation International de l'Automobile from Gran Turismo Polyphone Digital. Haven't heard of that game. World Rowing open format, world sailing, virtual regatta. So a lot of these companies and a lot of these games are not things that I think gamers would recognize. And they definitely seem like they are just emulating events that would have already existed in the Olympics previously, and they are now simply turning it towards digital, because of the pandemic, probably for no other reason. TechRoad has an article. Wizards of the Coast has named Extra Life its partner for 2020 for any charity raising scenarios or events that they do, which I don't think there's anything horribly objectionable around Extra Life, but I could be wrong about that. May have just not heard anything.
Is it edible? Only one way to find out.
Okay. What can we do to actually win here?
So that's how you use it.
You're done for.
Go on, eat up. Gotta follow my
Let's
nose.
hit that.
So
And then hit
that's how you
that.
use it.
And
So
then
that's
hit
how you
that.
use it.
This calls for a taste test. Too
And
slow.
then hit that.
So quick.
Let's see. Gamatsu has an article. A Paper Mario inspired 2.5D adventure called Born of Bread is coming to PC.
This invention could be my claim to fame.
Let's see if we see some screenshots, and that's about it. Might be alright. Doesn't look terrible. Looks kind of close to like an Adventure Time type story and environment, with just a more kid-friendly, I think, even than Adventure Time animation style and character designs.
I need more fear. More terror.
Got a job to do.
Okay. Now I want to keep this one, and this one, and this one. Killing that one. And then
Die, creep.
hit that one.
Loyalty is ironclad.
Did I overreach myself?
Let's see. Gamatsu has a Konda Alice Mo Suru debut trailer. This looks like this is a Yuri visual novel. Yeah, it's a Yuri short mystery visual novel. Let's see what the trailer might give us. Let's see, a girl doing traditional Japanese archery, blonde-haired girl, some other girls, the girls in their regular school outfit, a girl in a traditional kimono. So, yeah.
Loyalty is ironclad.
Looks like it's just a black-haired girl and a blonde-haired girl that are going to be doing most of the interaction. Let's see. Do we want to do this?
Have faith. Steal yourself.
Hit that.
Steal yourself.
So quick.
This town needs good folk for
I should have played that first. Let's see. Gamatsu has Samurai Showdown DLC character Hibiki Takane launching April 28th. This is a black-haired ninja girl from the looks of it. And what's funny is like the European video that's embedded from YouTube is visible, but the English video is age restricted for the North American, and the Japanese is not restricted. Yeah, YouTube is ruining itself, either being forced to comply with laws that it should have been complying with up until this point. A big point of this, I think, is the age verification. I've definitely noticed that Google's demanding the ages of everyone, which honestly you should have already known that, or at the very least you should have been able to say anybody who started an account at least 13 years ago on Google should be greenlit instead of asking their actual age, but that may not be good enough. And I think you'd be surprised how many people do have like a Gmail/Google account that is at least 13 years old. Still kind of failing miserably to get one swordcraft victory, and we don't really have anything else we could do. We could do the default swordcraft. See, Gemetsu has Tyson Idol Mahjong Final Romance 2 coming to the Switch on April 28th in Japan. And this is a collection of the 1980s anime style of anime girls. So, not the moe art style. Yeah. And I imagine none of those Mahjong games particularly show much. See, Gematsu has the Atelier Mistress Trilogy Deluxe Pack launch trailer, which I think is coming out April 22nd worldwide. And this is Atelier Sophie and Frias and Lydiel and Sueli, I think, all merged together. See, Gematsu has Square Enix and Hiro Mashima announced fantasy RPG Gate of Nightmares for iOS and Android. And this, yeah, looks like an RPG game.
Prepare for defeat.
See, let's watch the trailer and see if there's anything special. I find it weird that Square Enix would announce yet another RPG game when they seem to really not have enough momentum to maintain interest on anything other than Final Fantasy games. But maybe what is happening here is Square Enix is like hiring secretly a lot of people that are leaving PlayStation that wanted to make their own RPG games. Yeah, the most noticeable thing about this RPG is that there is a wizard fairy type character called Miruru that looks particularly young looking. And then there's like a somewhat young looking male protagonist with a sword named Azel. Also, he looks kind of childish. And I don't know if you really would want to play an RPG where you have a 12-year-old potentially, or someone with the attitude of a 12 or 14-year-old as your main hero. Like, you could certainly make the argument that a lot of even the Square Enix Final Fantasy heroes were kind of childish characters in the first place, but they usually, particularly the later Final Fantasies, are aging them up to being like 15. They were getting married and they were like 20, 22, 25, I would assume, in my mind. Not super young. In Final Fantasy VII's characters, I assume all those characters are in their 20s too. Of course, as I get older, my assumption on their ages might be getting older too.
How much is in it for me?
Moving on, Gematsu has Sakura Kakumi Hanasaku Otumi Tachi ending service on June 30th. This is a Delightworks developed RPG being shut down for cell phones, which I guess that really probably wouldn't affect anybody in the West.
Don't call me short.
I guess do that, and I guess do that, and I guess we'll just try and wear it down.
I am a prisoner of this world's whims.
Ninja Gaiden Master Collection Ninja Gaiden 3 is available for wishlisting on Steam. But yeah, there was a Japanese game that came out and had a PC port just the previous week, and the PC port was terrible. They also have Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2, so I'll put that on the follow list. And Ninja Gaiden Sigma. And frankly, all the screenshots seem to be the same for Sigma 1, 2, and 3. Almost as if it's the same game with just improvements on the speed of the movement. Which I don't think is the case, but might be the case. Right, well.
Raise your blade.
Hit that. We'll evolve that. Let's see. Gamatsu has Immortals Phoenix Rising DLC The Lost Gods now available. They've updated their Famitsu sales for this week, which Winning Post 9 2021 is new and in the 5th position for the PS4, where Winning Post 9 for the Switch is in 3rd position is new, and everything else is an old listing and for the Switch only. See, Gamatsu has Biomutant World trailer, which is a trailer. I don't know if I even really need to watch a trailer for Biomutant yet. You're walking around as some kind of mutated rat and you're gliding. If anything, it feels like it's heavily inspired from Breath of the Wild as far as your movement. But it's just walking and maneuvering yourself. It's not showing any of the gameplay. This is a game from THQ Nordic, and frankly, THQ Nordic could benefit from having more of a lineup.
Raise your blade.
Let's see. Gamatsu has Sinran, Nin, Ninja Tyson, Neptune, Sojo, Taichi, no Kyoin. First details and screenshots. This is the Sinran Kagura / Neptunia game with the Ninja Girls versus the video game Avatar girls. Looking at the screenshots, it seems like the clothing outfits aren't too scantily clad so far, although we don't know if there's going to be battle damage on them, so the outfits might get more revealing later. It seems like the actual game itself is more of an RPG hack and slash type game going against enemies. Looking at the heads-up display, it doesn't seem like you are really expected to take a lot of damage or use a lot of energy or spend a lot of time fighting any one specific group of enemies, and instead you're going to be just fighting a lot of the same enemies over and over again. It kind of feels like a Warriors series type game where you're going to spin around and attack 4 to 6 people at once. And it is marked for the PS4, so maybe that will be an indicator of why there's less potential adult content in it than you'd normally expect from those developers, or lewd content, at least. A PS4 physical edition launches August 26th for the game Song of Horror in Japan. Let's see. We have a game on Steam called ASMR Lightness Light Painting, which looks like nothing, for $2.39. I'm just trying to get to the end here. There's a game called Sute, S-U-T-E Kina, K-I-N-A, Kanojo no Tsukurikata, which is tagged as a visual novel, and it has 256 reviews, and it's 17% positive. I've never seen a visual novel game so poorly reviewed. The only thing I could assume is that there's just major censorship here. It's very, very negative. $8.99 Japanese full audio. Let's see what the negative reviews. Maybe it's review bombed. Let's see if we can see the. I'm not seeing the graph either. Alright, review types negative. I have one that says stop romanticizing mental health, illness, abuse, drug use, and rape. And that's like the most useful review. One that says how terrible, one that's not in English. What is going on with this game? Yeah, I have to put this game, oddly, on the follow list just to follow the controversy. I'm actually going to use it as a follow because the animation here looks decent, and this doesn't look like just a low effort visual novel. It does seem to be fairly short, so I don't know if there's a bigger controversy here or if story says it's a love story. Its own description is a love story between a yandere social anxious girl and a well-born young lady, produced by the Japanese Bishoujo game brand Sushi Soft. Interaction occurs at several points where choices are given to the player, and these choices eventually lead to 8 various endings. Yeah, I don't know why that'd be so negatively reviewed. That's shocking. Without any better explanation. I tried to look at the positive reviews as well as the negative reviews, and it still didn't really help. Let's see, we've got a game on Steam called Night Wanderings, which is a top-down twin-stick shooter. Yeah, it doesn't look interesting enough. The visual polish on it's kind of nice, but that's about it. It's $1.19, English only. Let's see if we really not accomplishing anything today, are we? We have a game on Steam called Norin, which is described as a simple key finder game. To me, it looks like a dark screenshot horror game where you're wandering around with a lamp in this dark dungeon. It's $2.39 English and Turkish. Yeah. Let's see, I just need like one swordcraft victory. I guess I could get that unranked, and then I just need a ridiculous amount of other victories anywhere else. So if we came over and said, let's just play Forestcraft. Let's see if we can win that. Next, we have a game on Steam called Cinemojo Oscar, which looks like a mobile game. It's uninteresting for 69 cents English only. See. Next, we have a game on Steam called The Wave Story, which is a dark screenshot. Looks like frustration platformer. They're calling it a puzzle platformer. It's $2.99 English and Portuguese Brazil. Yep. It is really weird to be in the wrong settings and not be able to do the web peek, because all of a sudden it feels like I just have to describe everything, and I'm just leaving a lot of people out on not really understanding what's going on. And it's just so easier to just say, here, you look at it, you see it yourself, instead of having to try and describe something. Let's see, next game we have is called Eye Roll, which is a asset flipped eyeball rolling around a just kind of asset flipped maze. There does seem to be a few items inside the maze that might be puzzles or something, but yeah, this is just all over the place as far as the idea or surreal artistry that I couldn't appreciate it really. It's $2.99 English only. I'm just trying to get to the point where I can see the beginning of the end. That way I know there will be about 20 games left over, which will probably be too many games left over for Monday, but it's a good thought at least. I probably should get it down to about 10 games left over. Next we have a game on Steam called Farming Engine, which is just a low polygon Stardew Valley clone. It's free, so I guess the price is right at least. Next we have a game called Waifu Impact, which is some asset flipped anime girls in bikinis shooting each other with squirt guns, but certainly the emphasis here is to show off the asset flip girls in the bikinis only and not have an interesting squirt gun game. There's already been a game like that that would be much more worth your dollar, and that would be, I believe, Simran Kagura Peach Beach Splash. So it becomes real questionable as to why you would buy Waifu Impact from a no-name developer instead, other than the fact that it's $5.39. And let's see if we were to look at Simon Kagura Peach Beach Splash. It is $29.99. Rated very positively. It's on my wish list. And if you were to buy all the DLC on it, you would spend $365.73. But I don't know if you actually need to buy any of the DLC, because I think that is pretty much just different outfits. Your mileage probably would heavily vary too, as far as Peach Beach Splash nowadays, because almost certainly there was very few people playing it when it came out in 2018, and I imagine there's even fewer people playing it now. So you're not going to be able to jump into a multiplayer. But that is even worse, I imagine, for a no-name developer making a clone of that game. Here we have on the chat BZ Tanaka saying hello on the chat. Hello, BZ. Or almost want to say Tanaka-san, but we'll go with BZ. We have a game on Steam here called King of Drift, which just looks like another low-effort attempt at making a drifting game with very, very low frame rates on the video. It's early access for $14.99, English full audio. Let's see. If we hit this, we could do this. Do I want to evolve?
Help me, fairies.
No, the blueprints. Hey, let's play. Yeah.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Underland the Climb, which looks like it's a puzzle game where you're manipulating platforms to get from point A to point B. It has kind of a interesting art style to it. Feels zoomed out with like what you would expect NES graphics to look like, and that might actually work. It's $1.19. It's English only. I'm gonna put it on the fall list and see if that works. Each fairy in your hand. Well, how many fairies could I get in my hand? Reasonably. One, two, three, four. And the turn. Gametsu has a puzzle platformer called Tandem: A Tale of Shadows. The story trailer is now available. Starting to get more and more advertisements for potential new games.
Designs are like unhatched dragon eggs.
The video doesn't want to play, so I'll talk about a different article. Gametsu has Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yabai, Hinokami, Kaputan, adding Sabito Makomo, which I think is yet another character. And that fighting game is going to just add more and more characters, I'm sure, as it goes. Right now, the trailer for Tandem wants to play, so I can jump around. Nope. Let's see, 5 damage.
There you are, my little trespasser.
7 damage here.
Forget it. I'm done.
End the turn. So it looks like on the trailer, which I'm afraid to skip forward at this point, so I'm just gonna let it play all the way through to watch. Seems like a doll is dropped off the back of a cart, and maybe a teddy bear was dropped off the back of it, and so then they are chasing after the cart and into this like magical world. And so it's like, you would assume with the word tandem that it's a co-op game, and the teddy bear seems to be in a different gravitational field than the doll girl is. So there might be something to that, but honestly I wouldn't be surprised if there's actually very little to it. It seems to be a top-down perspective game that you're playing most of the time, and then you have to switch controls between the doll and the bear to get through some areas. And it seems like the dolls works in light where the teddy bear works in shadow. Yeah. Let's see. We have a game on Steam called After, which is tagged as a first-person shooter sandbox game. And yeah, that pretty much feels like what it is. I wouldn't even call it particularly asset flippy, I'd just call it kind of empty. It's early access for $19.99. I don't see any reason to put it on the follow list. See, I feel like there's a storm happening outside and my internet service is about to drop because of that. I may have to just abruptly end, or I may just get cut off on the stream anyways. A smartphone game, according to Gamatsu, called Star Ocean Amnesia is going to end its services on June 24th in Japan. We may have already talked about that, or that may have been a different game. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article, Judgment, the Next Gen Difference, which, yeah, maybe the game Judgment had already come out and they're releasing a next generation version of it. That would make some sense. Microsoft put out a newsfeed article called Gaming Just Like Everyone Else. And this was like Microsoft Asia in particular, focusing on the idea of the Xbox Adaptivity Controller being promoted and pushed and sold in the Asian countries. At least I know in Japan, there's not a lot of accommodation for disabled people. In Japan, they tend to send them off to hospitals and hide them away. That's true for a lot of countries. And the adaptive controller concept is still kind of a great concept, but it is also something that could honestly use a redesign, where I think a high percentage of people using the adaptive controller are not going to use the two giant big buttons and the D-pad on the front face of it, and they are just going to be plugging in specific switches for every single other button into the back of it. So a breakout board that was just the switches on the back probably is a smarter move. And there might be some improvements as far as where you would mount a controller like that to make it secure. It's a fairly expensive controller, so I would almost want a Kensington lock on it, which is what, or on laptops to stop them from getting stolen, and a microphone screw-in mount or a camera mount, so you could put it on a stand, a mic stand or something like that is probably a smart move also.
Is that a human?
But yeah, I don't know how you're going to be able to continue around promoting that adaptivity controller without scaling it up. And the scaling it up is the weird part there, because you're not going to convince everybody to buy an Xbox Series S or X and it come with an adaptivity controller versus a regular controller. What you could do is you could have the regular controllers try to be more compatible and accessible, but you really can only go so far before you're drastically changing the designs of an Xbox One controller. And there's only so many places where you could plug in some kind of breakout cord. Actually, that would probably work very nicely, is if there was just a USB breakout box or breakout cord that you plugged into the back of your controller, and then you could plug in any number of devices into that cord, and those devices would act as replacements for the buttons. Yeah, actually that would make so much sense. But you would have to have a multiplexer chip of some sort, I would imagine, inside that breakout cord to take what could be potentially 15, 16 inputs and then multiplex that into some kind of USB signal or electrical digital signal. But that would make a lot more sense than what they actually did design, which is big and bulky and kind of not as useful as you'd think it should be. There's no duplicate cards in my deck, but there are duplicate cards in my deck, so that's point. See, Gamma Sutra has a job listing for PlayStation as a facial modeler in San Diego, California. The Godot engine announced version 3.3 with a focus on optimization and reliability for anybody using the Godot engine to program games, which is probably nobody listening to my channel, but whatever. Alright, so that shows the beginning of the end, which means this game can be the final game for today's stream, and we can end at 2 hours and 30 minutes, and that's almost certainly the right move because it's storming. Just go ahead and hit that and get ambush. So we'll just go through the games that are left and whatever, and we'll try to leave about 10 games for Monday if we go through them all, whatever. So we have a game on Steam called Angry Space Bees, which looks like terrible pixely graphics. Early access for $1.79. Claims to support 29 languages. We have a game on Steam called Screen Space, which looks like horrible neon graphics, which seems to be basically a timing clicker game for $1.99. Looks terrible. Then we have a game on Steam called Zero Chance, which is tagged as a hack and slash Souls-like game, and it just doesn't seem to have enough polish to look like it's a fully thought out idea. It's $1.19 English only. Let's see. Do this. Do this.
Just like I said in my tip-off note.
And then
An honest day's work.
hit that. Hit that. We'll just have to evolve here.
I'll save you all.
Go ahead and play that.
Comes with everything. No one gets past me.
Hit that.
I lowballed you.
Gotta love the scenic route.
Next, there's a game called Sparkle and Gems, which looks like total garbage. Like, terrible, terrible animation for what seems to be a combination of concepts of games. Arkanoid is one I recognize, and then several others seem to be kind of nothing. It's $8.99, so definitely know the Sparkle and Gems. Alright, and so then all I want to do is go through my Twitter feed, even though there's still about 20 games I could talk about, and just see if there's any actual news that we need to talk about before wrapping up today. And that seems like the right way to go here. Apparently, Johanna Faries, Faries, has become the general manager of Call of Duty. Bobby Kotick said something nice about Joanna Fairies, and Activision retweeted it. Judgment is now available for the Xbox Series X and S. CD Projekt Red refunded 30,000 copies of Cyberpunk 2077 last year in a 2.2 million refund campaign, according to Gamma Sutra. Humble Bundle prices sliders are going away for good and are being replaced with a system that caps charity donations to a max of 15%. I think at that point I'm done with Humble Bundle. Like, I don't see a reason to continue doing promoting them or doing anything with them. It was a good deal when there was when you could give all the money to charity or all the money to the developers, if that's the charity you wanted to give it to, although that's not really a charity. But if Humble Bundle as a company, since it's been bought out by another company, is going down this greedy route, they're only going to get more and more greedy. And yeah, on top of that, the Humble Bundles have been not well suited to me for a while. So I don't feel like it felt a little different to promote something that could be 100% charity if you chose it versus just promoting a website. Now, inherently, I'm always promoting Steam because I think Steam is the right place to buy games. And I'm talking about every single game that comes out on Steam. So there is a major amount of promotion that's happening there, whether intentional or wanted or not. But I don't particularly... That's weird. Nier Replicant just came out on Steam. Interesting. Yeah, I don't feel like there's anything I could do there, and I don't promote like Epic Game Store because I don't think it's a good game store. I don't promote itch.io. I don't promote Games Planet, which is having a spring sale giveaway, according to Tech Raptor. I don't promote Indie Gala. That's another one. There was that one that was all about the Steam keys and using stolen Steam keys. That had all kinds of controversy around it, and we haven't heard anything about them in a while. So I kind of wonder why that is the case. Really? Feels like there should have been some controversy. There was a content creator that came out and said, if you like video games, buy them at full price. I don't think that is getting any new sailors, new purchasers, really, though. That's not honeyed words to convince a on the edge potential purchaser. That's telling people to spend more money that people don't have in almost every scenario on products. And honestly, I cannot ever make an argument that you should risk your own financial health by buying a game at full price. If a company can't afford to put their games on sales, then they are fine to never put their games on sales, and they may lose on some purchasers. There's plenty of companies like that on Steam that just never put their games on sales, and thus I never buy it. Capcom is kind of a great example of that. They very rarely discount their games to what I feel is a reasonable amount. It is also certainly part of the corruptive, insane way that capitalism has become, in which the idea that market forces will find the right price for for your product, and then you will be guaranteed to succeed if you have a good product. It's just not true. More and more people are being pushed and tricked into buying games or buying items for sale in general around the idea of manipulation in one way or another, whether it's through marketing campaigns and usually SJW pushing of politics amongst big corporations, or creating a cult-like mentality around Apple products, or something like that. People more and more are getting brainwashed and manipulated into buying products instead of somebody just making a good product and offering it for sale and people finding it and purchasing it. So it's ridiculous that a game developer might even start to go down the road of trying to make people feel bad because they bought a game on sale. Artists in general, like true artists, want their art to be seen. Capitalism corrupts art, and this is a great example of it. It corrupts it and makes it something worth value that then has to be hidden away from people and sold only to the rich and the influential, and that's not really what art should be. Art should really be free if it could be free. Unfortunately, it may not be able to ever be free. Anyways, on that statement, I'm going to end this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist.